Hi, I'm Marcella.
And I'm Grace, and this is our policy analysis project on fast fashion.
In our society, buying clothes online is easier than going into a store. And with fast fashion brands like Shein, it's also cheaper. We're able to buy an abundant amount of clothing for a fraction of the price that the fabric, and more importantly, that the labor is worth. Fast fashion brands take advantage of these facts, and they lead the fashion industry by quickly producing mass amounts of trendy clothing with short lifespans. In our graphic, you can see that right now, Shein is running a buy one, get one 99% off deal. And while sales are not only common on the Shein website, we can see that this company values their clothes so poorly because they know that people will buy cheap products just to wear them once.
About 73% of the clothing articles end up in a landfill or being incinerated. This is because these short lived garments are tailored to deteriorate and go out of style, which prompts the consumer to dispose of the item almost as quickly as they receive them. Creating these synthetic fabrics is also very energy intensive, as the process emits harmful greenhouse gases that contribute to the rise in global warming. These are also very bad for human health, as they can cause severe respiratory diseases in humans.
Part two is policy formation, and the first policy we're going to talk about is the information disclosure policy. This would require disclosure of waste production to be made public and understandable to the average person. Fashion Revolution is a global fashion activism movement that creates a yearly fashion transparency index that ranks the world's biggest clothing brands based on their public disclosure of human rights and environmental policies to hold brands accountable. The average grade of transparency in 2021 was 23%, and this tells us that the global clothing brands are less than adequate in reporting their own waste contributions. Companies with zero enforced transparency are less likely to take responsibility for their actions, and an information disclosure policy could force companies to be honest about their environmental impacts.
Another policy we researched in enforcing production quota regulations. Many companies have the uncapped freedom to produce clothing in massive quantities, most of which end up back in the cycle of waste. Sustainable supply chain management is a policy idea that would provide economic benefits to companies that take social responsibility for the actions of their business activities. Having an environmental policy that limits the number of different garments a company can create could reduce the quantity of waste that comes from these brands. It could also encourage brands to put effort into the quality of their products so they do not wear out as easily and end up back in the cycle of waste. Our last policy that we discuss is modifying framework of economic activity and implementing social incentives. Brands are taking a greater interest in sustainability as it becomes a more prominent topic in the media, especially since retailers serve such a high profile in the social content that we consume. It is more attractive to the consumer to purchase clothing from a sustainable brand, which in turn makes the company more profitable. Green product procurement motivates governments to choose products and services that have a lower carbon footprint and adverse impacts on the environment. The policy provides the fashion industry with incentives to develop garments in a more sustainable manner.
After careful consideration, we have come to the conclusion that the best course of action to minimize the waste created by fast fashion is to implement the information disclosure policy. This policy would increase consumer confidence in brands and hold brands accountable. While we believe that in order for Shein and other fast fashion companies to make up for the immense amount of pollution that they've created, they would need to cease production entirely. We know that this is not feasible, so we ask that they meet a standard for information disclosure, disclosing their profits, amount of waste created, and harm to workers. We believe that enforcing the disclosure of this information would lower the amount of waste created by fast fashion because of social pressure and higher quality expectations from the public and enforced by the government. Thanks for listening.
Thank you.